We'll do a review. Lekutis sichas and Chelek Tezbov, the first sicha from the parsha Vayigash. So the Rebbe, this is a Rashi sicha. The Rebbe wants to know why Rashi doesn't explain that seemingly Yosef, as soon as he reveals himself and he says, "Ani Yosef," his first question is, "Ha'id avichai, is my father still alive?" What kind of question is that? The Rebbe wants to know. We've just been discussing the whole thing that Yehuda is saying to him that if don't bring back Yosef, don't bring back Binyamin, his father's going to die. So he knows that his father's alive. The Rebbe goes through the various explanations, but the Rebbe says that Avichai was basically his first statement is, my father is still alive, and not in a surprise. Basically, I realize what the price over here that my father's been paying, and he tells them that Hashem sent me here to be there for you. That's his explanation why he hasn't, or he's not going to visit his father right now, because Hashem sent him here to do this job, so he can't go. But he's telling them, bring him as quickly as possible, because can my father still be alive after all this trouble that he's had? Let's look inside. Ois Aleph. Mahotchen Geret Filmol, we've already discussed many times, as Rashi Bipirusha al HaTorah, that Rashi in his commentary on the Torah, Bavorund Yed Shaila V'Kasha, he cautions and he answers basically every question, every things that needs to be explained, was ken fragen, that one can ask in Limud Pshuto Shel Mikra when one studies the literal meaning of the verse. And in those places where we don't find Rashi explaining, an inyan amuksha in Pasuk, something, a matter which is difficult in the verse, he says sabavai, so that it's evidence as erhotos shem bavorn, that Rashi has already answered this in a freer dikam pirush, in a previous comment. Other as dos is melchatchila kinkashin. To begin with, it's not really a question. In limud al derech hapshat, in when we learn the literal level. So basically, Rashi has to answer. There's no such a thing as Rashi didn't address it. Either Rashi addressed it before, or it's so simple that we don't need to address it. So that must be where we have to find the answer to the following question. If he said Darben Farstein, so according to this, we need to understand the Parsha Seinu in our portion, in the Sipur, in the story, the Yosef Hotzich, they lost their Kenan zu seine Brüder, as Yosef allowed himself to be recognized to his brothers. When the Pasuk there sailed, the Pasuk relates as Yosef Hotzuzei Gizok. Yosef told them, Ani Yosef, Ha'oid Avichai, I'm Yosef, is my father still alive? So immediately the surprise that one has, this is actually asked by many of the Torah commentators. The content of the portion up till this point is doch wegen die Rede von Yehuda zu Yosef. It's about the words that Yehuda spoke to Yosef. Wie Yaakov hat nicht gewollt schicken Binyamin ke Mitzrayim, that Yaakov did not wish to send Binyamin to Egypt, mitzada chashash, because of the worry from Va'ozaves Aviv Vameis, that he will leave his father, then he will die. So we're talking about Binyamin leaving his father, that would cause the death to his father. And as Yehuda worries, is afraid, as if Yosef wird verhalten Binyamin, and if Yosef will hold back Binyamin, but this Yaakov nicht aushalten, Yaakov would not be able to hold this out. He will see that the lad is no longer there, so he will die. Und die alle Rede hat Yosef der Herd. And all of these words, Yosef really heard them well. He really paid attention to them. So the Numen Yosef, when they had touched Yosef to the extent he could no longer would stand before and told everybody to move, and he cried and he revealed them to his brother. So that means that these words that Yehuda was saying to him was words that he really absorbed. And he was telling him that his father is alive. Heinz, so in that case, vi kumtes, how does it come? How come? As no them element that after all this, so the rest fragni asks the question, how is my father still alive? What kind of question is that? We also need to understand, we don't find Yosef to wait to give an answer to this question. From his brothers, is his father alive? This tells us that it wasn't really a question that needed an answer. His brothers could not respond to him because they became totally confused because of Yosef, that he revealed himself. But he continued talking to them. And he said, no, Eli, come close to me. And he says to them, I'm Yosef, etc. And he related to them how he became the ruler over the entire land of Egypt. And he concluded, he says, go up to my father. So in other words, he knows that his father is still alive. He told him, go up quickly to my father. And bring him to Egypt. So you see clearly, he didn't wait for an answer, he didn't wait for a response. This tells us that this wasn't just a question that Yosef had, is my father alive, that needs an answer to that. He says, go up to my father, he knows he's alive. Musman Zogan, therefore we have to say, as Yosef had sicher gewusst, Yosef knew for sure, as ein Vater lebt, that his father is alive. And in the Wörter of Ichai, and in these words, is my father alive, liegt an under many, there's a different meaning in those words. In Ois Beis, the Rebbe brings the meaning of the Barbanel, that this was just a sort of an opening that Yosef didn't want to confuse his brothers. So just like we find that Hashem entered as Cain Ayeko, because I have a lochicha, not to confuse him. So, but the Rebbe says it didn't need such a dramatic question. He could have started with some other details. Based, the Barbanel learns as Yosef Adoch gefragt, this that Yosef asked is nicht zu machen sicher dass Jacob lebt noch. It wasn't to ascertain, to make sure that that Yaakov is still alive. Nor this was done just to engage with them, to enter into words with them. Wissendig, since he knew as the brother that the brothers werden verschämt, they will be embarrassed when their Zokzei, and the Yosef is going to say, I'm Yosef. Hat gesucht a Weg zu reden euch wegen andere Sachen. So he was searching for a way to also speak about other matters, not just about him being Yosef. The erste Sache is given wegen dem Vater. The first thing was about the father. And he also had in mind to fragen euch wegen der andere Bnei Mishpacha, to ask also about the other family members and so weiter and so on. No, that is nicht gekommen dazu, but it never reached to that second step. The brothers became dumbfounded. They couldn't respond to him because they got all confused from Yosef. So based on this, the Barbanel's interpretation, that the reason Rashi doesn't address it because this concept that you start off a discussion with something else in order not to confuse is already brought down in Rashi. As Rashi learned Rashi also learns the pshat like this. In Pasuk in this verse, when the darf is nicht schreiben befedish, he does not need to write this openly, clearly, explicitly, while he already explained it earlier. If Pasuk by Yomer Loi Ayako, Hashem says to Adam after the Chet Tzedas, where are you? So Rashi says over there, Hashem knew where Adam was, didn't have to ask, where are you? And it just was a way of engaging him, entering into words with him. Shouldn't be too overwhelmed in order to respond. Another place in Rashi says, when Hashem was asking Cain, where is Hevel? So Rashi also explains, Hashem knows where Hevel is, but he knows that Cain killed him. But the Konesim may be different nachas to enter with gentle words. Rashi relies over here. Why does Rashi not explain what this question was? Because Rashi relies on those verses, and therefore there's no need for Rashi to say it over here. But this was the meaning of the question, Ha'oid Avichai. But the Rebbe says over there, Pirush is knitting ansam galakim b'nidin dedan. In our case, this interpretation is not fully smooth. Weil Achradich hadibur for Yehuda wegen der Wirkung von Binyamin's Verhaltung in Mitzrayim of Yaakov after the lengthy talk that Yehuda gave with regards to the impact of Binyamin's delay in Egypt that it will have on Yaakov is kidei konis b'dvarim in order to enter into words that Yosef did gedarf fragen. Yosef should not have asked, "Is my father alive?" But he should have started immediately with noch fragen b'zerek b'shpachas and should have asked about the families, etc. So the Rebbe says now that this is not really perhaps a question, but it is a surprise. And therefore, this is the way. Now, the Rebbe is going to challenge this interpretation as well. And the Rebbe is going to explain, yes, also along those lines, but what is really meant. Let's look inside. Gimel. You can answer as the Loshen Ha'oid Avichai Mitahei. Say, Ha'oid. Is my father still alive? Isn't it Keshaila? It's not a question. You don't know a fact. Si Avichai, is my father, whether my father is alive. It's a Loshen to me. It's in language of surprise. Rashi already said several times, Ba am I my brother's keeper? The hey is a Loshen Temahu. That's a Loshen surprise. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I guarding my brother? Is my father still alive? Someone was saying in our case, is he was surprised and he was wondering, was Oid Avichai, that my father is still alive? In those cases that we say, meaning that it's not, that he's not the Shomer. So that means over there, it's a Tamiyah, which it doesn't remain. But here, Ha'oid Avichai, which was trying to say it's a Tamiyah Kayemis, can they still be alive? The Chelek is not about that. Dugma now, by the above mentioned example from Hashem and most other places, is the Tamiyah Mevatel the Zach. Because the surprise negates this matter and the thought. Am I my brother's keeper? Meaning I'm not my brother's keeper. And all other places, the surprise negates the fact, or the thought. Cain was of the opinion that he does not have to protect his, he's not his brother's guy. But in our case, it's not, is my father alive? No, he's not alive. It's a sustained surprise. My father is still alive. Yosef says Yaakov Lepnoch. Yosef knows that Yaakov still lives. But that brings out a surprise. Rashi already explained earlier of Posik. Avram was surprised. Can I really give birth? It's not that I'm not going to give birth, but it's a Tmiyah Kayamis. Yes, to me is Shem Kayamis. Rashi says that it's sustained to me, which means in this case, it would mean that, wow, my father's still alive. So why is this such a surprise? So the Rebbe is going to ask a few questions over here and going to come up with the answer. So, number one, what's it so surprising for a Yaakov to be alive? Aleph, Yaakov is dan al given shloshim u'ma'as shana. He was 130 years old. As he says, when he brings him to Pare, he says, he tells him, I'm 130 years old. Much less than Abraham Yitzchak, 180, 175. Is their Pele. So why are we surprised how Oido Avichai is my father still alive? That should be his. Why is this such a surprise? What is the connection to the beginning? He says, is my father still alive? The surprise, how does it relate to what he's trying to tell his brother in his first opportunity? In Gimel number 3, to the Vos Bechlal, at Yosef that sells to the Brida. Why at all did Yosef relate his surprise to his brother? He was wondering, why is he telling it to them? Und noch tondos bald in demselben Moment, and he did it immediately at the same moment. As soon as he allowed himself to be recognized by his brother, immediately he says, is my father still alive? And Yosef, must be that there's something meaning, as the Rebbe will explain. This was the encouragement for them to go back to this later words, go back and bring my father. And he had to tell it. That's why he was telling it to them. And then it was important for them to tell it to him. And that's the surprise, is in the fact of all the suffering that he went through from being apart from Yosef. The Rebbe says like this: if this was really a question, like if it's not like the explanation we're learning Oido Vichai, so if the question and then you can say why that he wanted to know right away. Is it given the gates mainly he wanted to know about his father. That's why immediately he asked him, how is my father still alive? As Yaakov leapt out of Gibus. But if we should say that Yaakov was alive, he knew. He's not a nice to make an al, and this is only not a question that needs an answer, yes or no, but it's still not a surprise. Why was this important to point this, to show this immediately then? When let's say that it sailed on the Yosef, as soon as he related to them that I'm Yosef. So the Rebbe explains Dalit. Alpiza is the beard and then the pashtus. The explanation is very simple. Rashi on the verse that he refused to be comforted. So Rashi says that why did he refuse to be comforted? Because a person does not accept comfort if the person is really alive, the suffer shumes, and he just thinks that he's died. Because for a person who actually died, there is a decree that he should be forgotten from the heart. But if the person is alive, there's no such a decree. So the person never forgets about him, and they're always in mourning. That's why Yaakov mourned for his son for many days. This is what Yosef was telling his brother. And Yosef, I am Yosef. So the surprise is, Imam Yosef means I'm alive. My father's still alive. Yosef left. That means I am Yosef. Yosef is alive. It turns out that as 22 for 22 consecutive years. Yaakov was mourning for Yosef. He was mourning for him. What kind of a mourning was it? That comes from a love that he loved him more than all of his sons. Atzar, Mavil, this is a tremendous pain. Exaggerated, impossible pain. It's not common at all. Is therefore very surprising. How could Yaakov withstand such a great pain in all these long years? When he's noch als beim Leben and he's still alive, when I'm a Yosef. The mit wird verstandig. Now we understand. With this, we understand. But Yosef, the Yosef needed to express this surprise. He needed to tell it, to articulate it to his brother, tell them about it. Why? Yosef could be surprised. How could his father still be alive with all the tzuras? But Yosef is telling them because this was an introduction to what he was trying to tell his brother. This is an introduction to his emphasis later on, the matter of haste from bringing Yaakov and in Mitzrayim to bring Yaakov to Egypt. The Mehidus, the haste is not nor maharu va'alu, haste and go up el avi gomer, go up to my father. It said in the Mlosen Visen Yaakovin to let Yaakov know what's free as soon as possible, the good news, as Yosef left noch, that Yosef is still alive. And therefore he will stop being sad and mourn and cry over him. This is an introduction also. Come down, don't stop, don't stay, don't stall, come right away. And you shall haste quickly to bring my father down here. As is an Indian from Sakonas Nefoshes, since this is a matter of life in danger. After such a pain, even if Yaakov revived, it was alive, the spirit of Yaakov, after he heard that Yosef was alive, through the news, the good news that Yosef was still alive. But still, we need to bring him quickly. Go ahead and see him. So now we see that this was an important component for Yosef to share with his brothers. He says, how could my father still be alive after all that he went through? That means that it's a very detriment to his health. And we have to bring him down, not only tell him quickly, but bring him down as quickly, because this is something which has caused him the deterioration. He's been in such pain. We have to take that away for him as soon as possible. Bring him down here as soon as possible. So, if that's so important, as soon as possible, why does Yosef pick up and run to his father as quickly as possible? Now we understand, the Rebbe says in Ois Hey, why Yosef had to tell his brothers so many times in his words that Hashem has sent him over here, that he can't really go. Hey, based on this will also be explained the lengthy language that Yosef used was there is ein Zogen to the Shvatim. Before he tells the Shvatim, Ma'ruva alu elovi, quickly go up to my father. Or to draimol ibrig chazer. He repeats 3 times. For sustaining you with food, God sent me before you over here. Yosef saying to his brother, number 1. Then he says, number 2, God has sent me before you. And number 3, he says, it is not you that sent me here, but Hashem sent me here. Why is he saying that? Since every instant that Yaakov does not meet up and doesn't see Yosef, there is a worry of danger in life, his life in danger. So then the question arises: how did Yosef satisfy by telling the tribes, go quickly and go up to my father, etc.? As his own gain can Eretz Yisrael, they should go to Eretz Yisrael and bring in Yaakov from dort came Mitzrayim, and to bring Yaakov from there to Egypt. He should have gone very immediately by himself, go quickly to Eretz Yisrael. Why would that be a better choice? In addition to the fact, the Rebbe says in the bracket, that just because honoring the father, he should be the first one going to Yaakov. As when it has to be very quickly, when Yaakov was already older, he was 130 years old, is durch dem wollte gewen a meshach zman rav frier. That way, besides all this, he would have been much quicker for him to go to see Yaakov. And this Yosef answered and questioned by saying, by introducing, by emphasizing, come upon me many times. As Dosva said, is in Mitzrayim. This is that he is in Egypt. He says, that's not his choice. It's not his wishes. Nor shlachan elikim. This is Hashem sent me. This is an agent of Hashem. To sein der Mashbir Bar L'Cholam Oretz, to be the one that is feeding the food to the entire nation of the land. So he doesn't have the right to leave. And another idea over here that the Rebbe says that Yaakov, as we know, had to be 22 years away as a punishment for his 22 years being away from his father Yitzchak. And up till the moment the 22 years were up, then there was no right for Yosef to go back. It's only afterwards that he has to go up as quickly as possible. Another aspect in the importance from go up quickly, Maru, go quickly and go up to my father. Rashi already explained earlier. As Yaakov's avelus abnei Yosef, that Yaakov's mourning for his son Yosef is connected, that corresponds to the 22 years that Yaakov did not fulfill honoring his father and mother. And therefore, this and the he knew that the 22 years of the punishment of Yaakov are over, but Yosef gefordert from the Shvatim. Yosef demanded of the tribes of his brothers, Maru, quickly go up to my father. Since the time of punishment is finished, so there has to be he doesn't hold them back even like the blink of an eye. The Rebbe says, adds the bracket, this will be very sweet. Was Yosef had gesagt, Yosef says, Maru va'alu alovi, go up to my father. Why not Maru va'alu alovinu, mitovinu, our father? Why is he my father? In addition to, was the Tsar for Yaakov is given verbunden with Yosef, my father, because Yaakov's pain was connected with Yosef. Yosef was the one that was missing. Is there mitot is a meramis given? He hinted that way. As the mehiris is verbunden mit sein Yosef, Ovi. That's my kenan mekayim, and he wanted to be able to fulfill the mitzvahs kibud av. Ovi, my father. In a way, I want to do the mitzvah. The 22 years of punishment. If then was Yaakov, that Yaakov did not fulfill the honor of his father of Yitzchak. From here we have the lesson, service of Hashem. Sometimes you need to use that form of left-hand pushes away. Gevura neinish, strength and punishment. Darf a number of reasons. But you need to, however, know as he say that it requires to being very extra careful. You should not use that measure. Yes, more than necessary. As soon as the instant comes, you don't have to. It's not necessary to push away in strength. So then, in a way of haste, quickly, turning them kav to do in the line of kindness and bringing close. Yimin mekarev is the right hand bringing close. This is B'sicha Shabbos Parshas Vayigash, Tavshin Lamed Dalet.